Horse, stop mugging me. Teaching your horse safe and desired behaviors. Welcome, my name is Sandra Popma. I'm the founder of HippoLogic and the HippoLogic Clicker Training Academy. After I tamed a feral horse in 2009, I decided to develop a home study program for horse owners to train their own horses with positive reinforcement so they can create a two-way communication system that builds trust and confidence, makes horses safer, and enhances the friendship people have with their horses and getting the results they really want. Table manners is key lesson number one that I teach everyone in the academy because it creates safe horses, it teaches safe and desired behaviors around treats. This class is a little bit more in general, not only about treats, but mugging in general, because horses can also mug for attention. For instance, if they paw on the grooming place to get your attention because you have walked away or you're talking too long to a barn friend. So are treats a challenge for you? Is it a challenge for him not to ask for them? Maybe your horse gets overly excited when you carry treats, or he's checking your pockets for treats. Does he get your attention in undesired ways, like pawing or becoming pushy? Did your horse become a so-called mugger? And would you like him to behave better? That's how what we're talking about today, how you can do that. Everybody can. So first of all, I would like you to become aware, like, what do you want? Do you want to use treats in training and teach your horse that he's not in charge of the treats? Because if this is what you want, that is part of your own motivation. Maybe you want to teach your horse to take the treats gently and safely off of your hands. That's something that I teach in key lesson table manners. Today we're going to talk about to be able to stop mugging once and for all without punishment or harsh behaviors. So let's talk about what mugging actually is. In my book, I consider it mugging when your horse is trying to get your attention or treats whenever he wants by displaying undesired and or unsafe behaviors. When he sniffs your pockets and it doesn't bother you because it's part of your ritual, I don't consider it mugging. And I wouldn't recommend changing this behavior because it's a communication that you two developed. But when this kind of behavior annoys you, or your horse gets really frustrated because he wants something from you, maybe he wants the treat or the attention and he doesn't understand why he's not getting it, that's when I would recommend giving your horse clarity. Clarity is one of the three pillars that I use in the HippoLogic system. And without clarity, we create frustration, despair, and other undesired emotion that inhibits learning, not only for a horse, but for us too. So my advice is to make learning fun for both trainer as well as the horse, so it will become a part of the relationship you are both looking forward to spend time together in a nice way. So I did a poll in my Facebook group and I asked people, what is a common mugging behavior for your horse? How does he get your attention? How does he tell you that he wants the treats in your pocket? And this is what everybody came up with. Sniffing your pockets, pushing you or your pockets, pawing, leg lifting, head bobbing or saying yes. Flamen is one thing. It's also part of showing off his newest trick or behavior before it's on cue. That's also something that you can do. Resource guarding or aggressive behavior, nibbling your hands or clothes, using your teeth, and finding smart ways to get your attention for sure. Like knocking over the camera, that's what my horses do if they absolutely want to be sure to get my attention. But other horses kick over their water buckets or and tying themselves on the grooming place because they will know that that guarantees your attention 100%. So maybe your horse does something else, or maybe you're recognizing one of these behaviors. So we will talking about what you can change to change this undesired behavior into desired behavior, so you can eliminate frustration for you and your horse as soon as possible. So ask yourself, what have you tried? What have you tried to help him stop mugging in the past? Did it work? Today I'm sharing what most people do and what doesn't work and what you can change so it will work. Maybe you have told him to stop. Maybe you shouted to him. Maybe you have ignored him, waved your arms or to get him out of your space, or maybe let him bump into your fist. Whatever you tried, it wasn't giving the results you wanted. Otherwise, you probably weren't here. No worries, we will talk about how you can change this. So let's talk a little bit about why punishment often doesn't work. So when you are aware of what didn't work, it is the first step. And mugging behavior has been reinforced for the horse because that is the reason why he's still doing it. So why punishment often doesn't work? Well, first of all, punishment is a mechanism to decrease a behavior. It's only meant to stop or decrease a behavior. What that means is that it's never teaching your horse what it is that you want him to do. So punishment doesn't leave the learner a clue what it is that you want. So it becomes really, really hard for your horse to think of an alternative if you don't show him how you want him to behave instead. The second reason punishment often doesn't work, especially if you use positive punishment to decrease a behavior by adding an aversive, like pain or whatever, something that he really wants to avoid. It must overshadow the benefits of the mugging behaviors. And in order to make it work, sometimes you have to be very, very harsh. Imagine your horse is asking for a treat by nudging your pocket. When you use positive punishment, you add an aversive, something your horse wants to avoid, to make him stop. You can shout, but often shouting is not aversive enough to overshadow the real benefit of the mugging behavior, the chance of getting a treat. So we have to remember that food is a powerful reinforcer. Eating is surviving. So therefore you have to use a very strong aversive in order to make the mugging stop if you use punishment on its own. So even when you do, you still don't tell your horse how you want him to behave. Since you didn't teach him better manners, it's likely that he will fall back onto the mugging behavior because that is his strategy that worked in the past. Negative punishment is decreasing a behavior by taking away an appetitive, something he wants to have. So you can take away the treat or you can take yourself out of the equation, which isn't really working if you want to train your horse. So I never found that pure positive really works for horse people because we don't want to jeopardize the relationship that we have with a horse, and we can jeopardize that relationship if we use a really, really strong aversive and we use punishment. So let's talk about extinction and why ignoring the behavior will work, which is negative punishment we take away, the reinforcement. So we have to remove the reinforcement at all. So this is a graph. This is the behavior, the initial behavior response frequency. But when we stop reinforcing that behavior, we get an extinction burst. The horse will do everything he can, like nudging harder, getting your attention even more demanding, because this is his only strategy and the strategy that worked in the past. So if he doesn't get reinforced, the behavior will become worse. This is what most people don't think about. If they are told, ignore the behavior, it will go away. Yes, it will, but before it goes away, we get that extinction burst. If we accidentally reinforce that behavior in some way, shape, or form, we have increased that behavior. So we even get further from our goal than before. And this is what usually happens a lot. And we don't control our environment 100% because we are not in in a laboratory with a horse. When somebody else gives the horse a treat, it will increase the behavior. So before behavior will get instinct, there's also what's called a spontaneous recovery. If we reinforce accidentally that behavior in that moment, or somebody else does, it skyrockets, and it's getting harder and harder to eliminate that behavior from its repertoire. So this is why it usually doesn't work. Well, it will work if we absolutely stop reinforcing this behavior in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, we don't have the control over our environment, over other people, and this is what makes it so incredibly challenging to teach a horse to stop mugging if we cannot control the complete environment. The other thing is that we still haven't taught our horse what we want to see instead. So that's why reinforcement will work. We have reinforced the mugging behavior. Why not give the horse what he wants, but instead for the mugging behavior, we teach him a new behavior, a desired behavior. So let's talk about positive reinforcement. That is strengthening a behavior by adding an appetitive. This is how mugging behavior usually starts. Negative reinforcement is strengthening behavior by taking away an aversive. That's not what we are talking about here today. So mugging behavior is mugging behavior because it has been positively reinforced. The horse got what he wanted and therefore it stays in his repertoire. Now we have to reverse it. So how do we do that? We have to ask ourselves first, what is the purpose of the behavior for our horse? What does he want? What does he get for this behavior? And even if we think it's not positive because we shout at him, he clearly thinks it is beneficial. Because when we get annoyed and we shout at our horses, what happens? He gets 100% attention of us. So maybe he doesn't want us to shout, but he does want 100% of our attention. And that's what they usually get by mugging behaviors. So I define mugging as getting your attention in order to get something he wants and doesn't have. So that can be freedom, it can be food, it can be scratches, it can be attention, it can be something else the horse wants. Maybe he wants to sniff this or that. So you always have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this behavior for my horse? Because that gives you the key of the reinforcement you can use for the desired behavior. So you, in order to teach your horse to stop mugging, you can reinforce what you do want by giving your horse what he wants. So is it food, then you give him food. Is it a treat, then you give him the treat. If he nudges you for scratches, you can reward or reinforce desired behavior with scratches or with the attention or the freedom, whatever it is. So in this picture number 1, Kira is looking at my hand and my treat pouch. She's not getting any, but the moment she moves away with her head, she creates a distance. Distance is incompatible with getting her nose into the treats. So I click and reinforce that. So we have to think about what he wants and use that as the best way to change his behavior by giving him what he wants, because we already have established that negative punishment on its own doesn't work, and that positive punishment can damage the relationship, and that's something that we want to avoid, right? So we have to give him what he wants for the desired behavior, and we only do this in the very beginning, and then we can switch to a variable reinforcement schedule and fade it out slowly to make the desired behavior even stronger. So think of a desired behavior that you want to train instead. It's important that this new behavior must be incompatible with the mugging, so he cannot do it at the same time. So if you teach your horse to look away from your pocket, it's incompatible with being with his nose in your pocket. It must be desired behavior. It must be safe behavior, because otherwise you have to retrain it again, and it must be reinforced heavily, especially in the beginning. Make sure it's so clear that if he doesn't mug but does the desired behavior, it pays off. So that's how you can change his mind within a few minutes. He might fall back on mugging behavior, but then you have to say, remember what we want. This is not how we work anymore. This behavior doesn't work anymore for you. Remember the new behavior, and he will, because he will start trying out what works instead of getting into that extinction burst full of frustration because you have taught him an alternative. Let's talk some success strategies. You have to replace the mugging behavior, the undesired behavior, with desired behavior. So you give your horse a clear alternative, and you reinforce it by giving your horse what he wants so you can get what you want. So you change to a variable reinforcement schedule as soon as your horse understands the new behavior, because that strengthens the new behavior, the desired behavior, even more. And you have to set up accountability for yourself to finish what you started, to get a well-behaved horse that is calm and content. So maybe you want to share what it is that you want from your horse with a barn friend, so they can remind you, oh, remember, he's mugging you. Oh yeah, that's something that I don't want to reinforce anymore. I will ask for the new behavior. So before we go to the Q&A, I would like to offer you a free one-on-one assessment. Let's get to the Q&A.